Hey guys, welcome back to the MCU HQ. It is the week of Thor Love and Thunder. Now, the week a movie comes out, sometimes, I'm not always good about it, but I like to release one video each day in that week to prepare. Now, the video doesn't have to be Thor related, but I like to release one video every day in the during the 5-day weekday. And so I am doing that this week for Thor Love and Thunder. And I'm starting out today and tomorrow, Tuesday. I will be doing top 10 MCU heroes and top 10 MCU villains. I was going to wait till after Thor to do this, but I was like, nah, I'm going to drop it today. So come back every day this week to see another video leading up to Thor, Love, and Thunder. So I figured I would kick this off by talking about my top 10 MCU heroes, because that's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, especially as the list of heroes in the MCU grows with each entry. We are up to an insane number of heroes that we've seen across this franchise. Now, I am not including any Netflix shows or any ABC shows for a couple reasons. One, I have not fully seen all of them, so I feel like it would be unfair to put them on this list. Second, there's so many of them that I would end up giving them their own list because this would be a very one-sided list. Because let me tell you some of the heroes that would be on this list if I was including all of the Marvel television shows. So I'm just keeping it to the 28 MCU movies that we have at this point, as well as the 6 shows that are out. Can't include Miss Marvel because it's not done yet. So let's hop in with number 10. At number 10, we have Black Panther. In such a short time, this character became one of the best MCU heroes. And sure, I don't think Black Panther's the greatest movie of all time. It's not the second coming of Christ like a lot of people make it out to be, but its main lead is very compelling and is a great character. In Captain America Civil War, he was introduced great, and he had a great arc of revenge and coming to terms with not taking his revenge, and the way he retracts his claws is always great. And then in Black Panther, it's about him being both a good man and a good king, and if that's possible. Then Infinity War, we get to see him fight alongside the Avengers, go toe-to-toe with Thanos, although that doesn't end very well. And then he's helping lead the troops in Endgame. It's a great journey he went on. He's such a compelling character. I love every time T'Challa's on screen, and it is a shame that we will not be seeing him anymore. At number 9, we have Vision. Now, I struggled on whether or not to put Vision at number 9 or number 10, but the only reason I put him above Black Panther is because he has some more memorable moments. First off, I gotta say, I do think that Joss Whedon has written Vision better than any other writer. Vision is the best part of Avengers Age of Ultron, in my opinion. Every time he opens his mouth, every line he says is fan-flippin-tastic.
I'm not Ultron. I'm not Jarvis. I am. There is grace in their failings. I think you missed that. But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. It's a privilege to be among them.
Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. And conflict breeds catastrophe. Oversight is not an idea that can be dismissed out of hand.
But what is grief, if not love, persevering?
He's also one of the powerhouses. Granted, we don't get to see him use all that power that much because he's benched in Civil War, he's benched in Infinity War, and he's not real in WandaVision, but it is what it is. Every time this character's on screen, it's a treat. And his death scene, for a character that we had only seen in 3 films, his death scene is so impactful, so emotional, and it really resonates through, as well as the goodbye in WandaVision and the story he has in WandaVision, trying to figure out his existence and whether or not he's real. And he does transfer his memories into White Vision at the end, so Vision can live on in the MCU. Vision is a great character. He's a character that gets you thinking. He's a character that when he opens his mouth, you can't help but listen, because every time he says something, it's amazing. And Paul Bettany knocks that role out of the park. Paul Bettany, by the way, very slept-on actor. He is a very good actor. At number 8, we have Groot. Now, it would be cheating to categorize Baby Groot and Teenage Groot as Adult Groot because it is technically different. James Gunn has said it's not the same Groot, it's a different Groot. So I'm not going to do that as much as I want to. The Groot I am referring to is Groot from the 2014 Guardians of the Galaxy. While Baby Groot may be cuter, Adult Groot is my favorite. He is such a great person. The way the scene that always makes me fall in love with Groot is when they're at nowhere and he sees that little homeless looking child who's filthy walking down the street and he makes a flower and gives it to her. It's awesome, and it's a great example of how James Gunn can do stories so well with no dialogue. Just you learn so much about how much of a sweetheart Groot is in that moment when he just gives a girl a flower. And then, of course, the constant I am Groot's, Vin Diesel's voice, it makes the character even better. It makes him so much more precious. And his sacrifice makes me emotional every single time when he says,
"We are Groot."
I cannot help but get misty-eyed. Everything that Groot does in that original movie is beautiful. He's precious. He's adorable. And it makes him worthy of taking a spot in the top 10. Alright, now we're moving into the people I really like. We're moving into the high class of my favorite characters here. At number 7, we have SpiderMan. It's hard not to put SpiderMan on a top 10 list, no matter what you think of the MCU Spider-Man movies. It's just hard. It's hard to not put him in the top 10 because his story is a rather compelling one. Granted, the second act of his trilogy kind of derailed the great story they were telling, but it is what it is. Having him come into the MCU idolizing these other superheroes, wanting to be them, and his story being about how he needs to not be them. He needs to be his own guy and try to stop living up to Iron Man's legacy. To then that going into him not knowing what he's supposed to do and then going through the same arc he went through in Homecoming and Far From Home, whatever. I don't care. I don't want to talk about Far From Home right now. Him getting to fight Thanos in space. Him getting to fight an alien in space. And team up with all these awesome Avengers and the dynamic they has with Doctor Strange and Star-Lord and Tony. And then when we go into No Way Home, this is what propels him from the bottom spot on the list up a few notches. Because No Way Home is one of the most compelling Spider-Man stories we have ever had. With him struggling with this identity crisis and wanting to do the right thing so bad that it gets Aunt May killed, and then wanting to go on this revenge story and being this close to killing Green Goblin before Toby steps in and stops him, and his motivation, his drive to cure these people instead of letting them die is what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. And of course that ending alone, that final shot of him going through New York, is perfect. But I'm not here to review No Way Home, I'm here to talk about why Peter Parker's such a compelling character. And no matter how bad the writing is, the charm of Peter Parker and the way Tom Holland gives that performance, seeing him swing around, whether it's with other heroes or by himself, it's hard not to like it. Spider-Man will always be amazing, no matter what version of Spider-Man it is. Okay, I take that back. There's some really trash versions of Spider-Man. I originally had my number 5 and number 6 switched, but I had to switch them when I started talking, and I was like, oh no, they deserve other spots. At number 6, I have Moon Knight, one of the newest additions to the MCU, but already one of my favorite. Everything about this character is so compelling. First off, he's the coolest looking superhero I've ever seen in my life. His origin story also, he's one of the most complex characters in the MCU when you take a look back at his origin and how he got started both as Mark Spector, how Stephen Grant came to be, and then how Moon Knight came to be with him being the Fist of Khonshu and him having this job that he sticks to and he's so set on doing it then at the end to be like, you know what? I don't feel like doing this job anymore, and he renounces the Moon Knight moniker, and he's free from Khonshu, and he's tight with Stephen Grant. The arc Moon Knight goes on is so great that as much as I want to see him in the MCU again, if I didn't, I would probably be okay with it just because of the way they executed his storyline. But every time Moon Knight is on screen, I can't help but love it. And is that in part because of Oscar Isaac? Yeah, who cares? Who cares? Moon Knight's just a great character in the comics and on screen, and I cannot wait to see more of it. Now, coming into the top 5, we have the character who was originally number 6, and that's Rocket Raccoon. Now, coming out of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I liked Rocket Raccoon because he was just a lovable dick. That's one of my favorite types of characters in movies. I love lovable dicks. They're so funny to me. They always get me laughing, but they also have a bit of heart to them. But coming out of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I liked Rocket because of how complex of a character he is. This dude is not as one note as he seemed. He has so much character and so many complexities and so much depth behind him. When we take into the fact that he was experimented on to turn him into this raccoon, and he's very insecure about who he is, and he tries to be like that to cope with how with his internal struggles and this journey of him going from being that asshole to turning into a superhero and one of the most lovable and one of the cutest characters and one of the characters that you feel the most sorry for with this inner journey that he goes on throughout Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 up through the final shot of that movie that I think is the greatest shot Marvel has ever done because of how well it captures Rocket's journey. It's not a particularly flashing or beautiful shot, but it tells so much story and tells so much about the journey of this character. And even though people like to say Guardians 2 is Star-Lord's movie, it's Rocket Raccoon's movie. He has the depth. His character has the true depth that no other character has. And I cannot wait to see how James Gunn portrays the next chapter of Rocket's journey in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Alright, it's pretty easy to predict what my top 4 will be at this point. At number 4, we have Captain America. Now, it's funny that I put Steve in the top group because Steve is not a character I always liked. He's a character I came around on fairly recently, but he was always one of my least favorite Marvel heroes. But that said, now that I have seen his full journey from beginning to end, I love everything about this man. I love how he's just pure good. In a world where there's so many gray characters, it's nice to have a character who is all good all the time, who wants to be a hero not because he wants to, but because he feels he needs to. That it is his duty to do this because so many other people are, and it's unfair for him to be sitting on the sidelines. And his journey from going to a mascot to knowing he should be doing something more and becoming the Captain America that we all know and love. And him in the modern day, struggling to live in the modern day, is such a compelling story because he doesn't belong here. There's a subtle line at the end of Age of Ultron when he says goodbye to Tony, and he says,
You all right? I'm home.
That captures so much of where Steve Rogers feels he belongs and where he's most comfortable. And that's why it becomes all the more sad when he feels betrayed at the end of Captain America Civil War and he sets down the shield and he walks away to become nomad for a while before coming back and realizing, no, they need me. And he takes that shield back, and that one shot of him standing against Thanos' entire army captures so much about why Captain America is such a great person. I can't help but love it. Alright, coming into the top 3, we have Tony Stark, Iron Man, for the fact that his arc is one of, if not the best arc in this entire franchise, of him going from this weapons specialist who's selling weapons that are then killing people, and him now switching to try to save those people, and him having to fight his ego. Literally, he shoots the mirror. That's him killing his, or it's supposed to represent him killing his ego. And then the way he goes on to be part of the Avengers and fight aliens, and the PTSD he gets from fighting aliens. I love his storyline in Iron Man 3. Up through him saying, no, I'm done being Iron Man, I have a family now. And then him realizing that's not going to work, and he comes in for one last fight, and he goes out in a blaze of glory. The story of Tony Stark, I don't know if they can ever top this storyline. And while he may not be my favorite, I do think that his character journey that he went throughout the 8 films or whatever that he appeared in is unmatched. If you hear jiggling, that's my cat running around. We got her a new collar with a bell on it, and she hates it. It's so funny. At number 2, we have also a newer addition. Granted, he's been around for about 6 years, but his sequel did just come out. That's Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is one of my favorite characters anytime he shows up. It's like, oh yay, Doctor Strange is here. Benedict Cumberbatch plays the crap out of that character. It's beautiful, but I feel like it's Doctor Strange's power set that really makes him compelling. Because he has such this mastery over mysticism, and it always comes either in handy or screwing things up. And I feel like he's been a very consistently written character. When you watch Doctor Strange, then you watch Infinity War and Endgame, and how he played everyone like a game of chess, and how he had this plan the entire time, and then the effect that that has on the entire universe. And then you go into Spider-Man, where he's all cocky, and he doesn't think about the fact that a 16 or 17-year-old kid is gonna have trouble listening to his instructions. That said, he didn't give the instructions till after he did the spell. And a lot of people say he's out of character. I wholeheartedly disagree. He has saved the universe 2 times in an expert way. He has a bit of an ego problem. He always has, and in No Way Home, that's his ego problem taking hold and not realizing how stupid this idea is. And Multiverse of Madness, sure, it has its faults, but I think one of the things it really gets right is its lead character with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange's journey in that movie is unbelievably compelling, of them raising the question of how Doctor Strange's plan may not have been the right play. They have never mentioned that, really, up until that movie, when they hit the audience with, this guy who claims to know everything might not know everything. And it's also where we see his ego in full effect, of how they keep mentioning how Doctor Strange is always the greatest threat to the multiverse, and then it ends with him reading the Darkhold, and all Doctor Stranges are the same. And when I got out of Multiverse of Madness, what I said is that it's crazy that the most powerful being in the universe at the moment, because Wanda's in limbo, but the most powerful being in the universe that we know of isn't trustworthy. That's such a cool story. And the best part of it is, Doctor Strange's best story is yet to be told. Now, coming in at number 1 is Captain Marvel. What a perfect character. There is no better way to do a character. And I love Carol's journey of how she went from a stoic know-it-all who relies entirely on her powers to a stoic know-it-all who relies entirely on her powers. I really cannot wait to see more of Captain Marvel. She's a perfect example of what a character should be, and I hope they don't change her at all. Alright, now coming in at number 1, we have Thor. I don't think Thor does everything perfectly, but he at least does everything good to a point that it projects him to number 1, because he does a little bit of everything he does is so well executed. For starters, how do you not think his power set's one of the coolest power sets in this franchise? The God of friggin' Thunder. But Thor's character arc is where Thor resonates with me. Now, while it may not be the best written and best executed story in the MCU, I do think it's the one I like the most, and the one I keep coming back to all the time is a great example of a character arc up there with Iron Man and Rocket. Thor goes from this spoiled, entitled little brat who wants to be, you know, I'm just gonna spell Thor's arc out for each movie to talk about the way it evolves. It's pretty cool. In the first movie, he goes from this spoiled little brat who cannot wait to be king.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
To a guy who is like, you know, I'll be king when it's time. I'll be king when you're ready for me to be king. And he goes on this great journey of humility, and he learns love, and he learns sacrifice. He sacrifices himself to save humanity. But yeah, then it ends. He's like, I'll be king when you're ready for me to be king. We go to Dark World. He doesn't know Loki's the one on the throne yet, but his arc is still shown through the end of that. Now, granted, I don't think Thor's arc in Dark World is executed as well as it should be, or could be. But the ending, it does ring true. The journey he's at least gone on through these films, where Odin is like, you know what, you can be king now if you want. And he knows Thor's not going to accept it, because Loki knows the arc Thor has gone on, where Thor says, I will protect Asgard and all the realms with my last every breath. I'd rather be a good man than a great king. And that's the journey that's reflected through the 3 appearances he had made up to that point of him wanting to be king, to him being like, I am okay just being a protector, being a guardian of the 9 realms, instead of taking the throne. He doesn't have much of a journey. Actually, he does sort of have a journey in Age of Ultron. He is the one who knows Vision has to come to life, and he's like, we got the Infinity Stones, we have to protect them, Vision can protect them, I gotta go out on a journey to find those, which brings us to Ragnarok, which might be, which probably holds second for Thor's best arc. When it starts out, he's looking for Infinity Stones, and he's like, oh crap, we gotta stop Ragnarok. And then he's like, oh no, we have to have Ragnarok. And then the end of that brings the trilogy full circle as they play Earth to Asgard when Thor is walking up to the throne. Just for it to all be taken from him in Infinity War, but I still love his journey in Infinity War of him being like, I've lost everything. And Thanos is gonna feel that wrath. And the way he comes into Wakanda, and his only mistake is that he wants to hear Thanos scream instead of just killing Thanos right then and there. Endgame is where I feel his arc falters a bit, because they send him back on a journey through the cosmos of him giving the title of king to Valkyrie, and I do feel like it might be a tiny bit of a character regression from where he had gone in Ragnarok and Infinity War, but it still does work in the grand scheme of Thor's arc of him not feeling like he should be king and wanting someone else to be king, and I cannot wait to see where this journey takes him in Thor Love and Thunder. But that is it. That is my list of the top 10 MCU heroes. These are my favorite 10 heroes that we have, although I can tell you right now, there's a hero whose show is on Disney Plus right now that is on a good track to take a spot on this list. What do you guys think? What are some of your favorite MCU heroes? Let me know down in the comments below. Also leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's gonna be it. Have a great day, guys.